Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that all life is interconnected and interdependent. Everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. It depends on each other. It's literally one thing. Now, spirituality and ancient wisdom has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons, and science is now just catching up. But this isn't even new science. This science has been around for over 100 years. Quantum physics and quantum mechanics, which is basically telling us that at the core of quantum physics, it's telling us that we are all one. So when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is Science of Instant Transformation with Cynthia Larson. Thank you, Cynthia. Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm so glad to be here. Love your show. Love the topic. Love the intention.
Okay, thank you. I think I can't remember. Sometimes I can't remember how I discovered my guests. I'm pretty sure I discovered you on YouTube. And when I discovered you, I was like, she's talking about some of my favorite things of quantum jumping, or am I saying it? Quantum leaps. And when we get further along, I do want to share I know I've experienced 2 quantum leaps, and major ones that I want to share. But first, before we talk about what's going on with me, please share. Let's share with our listeners who you are and your journey.
Right. Well, the part that brought me to YouTube is that I'm really focusing on getting the word out about reality shifts, what people who are spiritual would call miracles. And I think that's a great word for it, because I am spiritual.
Yes.
But I understand and appreciate there are so many atheists, so many scientists. Most of our colleges right now are pushing what I would call more of an atheist approach and a viewpoint, which I'm not going to get into that on the show. I don't want to. I'm going to leave that alone, because I think people come to their own truth, and I don't think we need to be pushy or preachy. But my own perspective is that spirituality is real. I really do believe in God. I believe in angels, So, but I also love science, and I believe that quantum physics has a lot to show us. And then the reason I'm doing the YouTube videos, if people have checked out my channel, it's a lot to do with these reality shifts. It's what I started calling the phenomenon, that there would be, like you set your keys down, you're in a big hurry, and on a day like that, it's so hard to find them again. And sometimes you can be certain that you put them in a particular place and nobody moved them, at least no one admits to it, but now they're in a different place. or it's like they vanish, and then they come back.
Well, I have to tell you the funny thing, I live alone now. So it can't be, when the kids were here, when the kids were little, had 2 children, I'm like, okay, who moved my keys? But now it's just me. There's no one to blame.
Right. And so sometimes you might think, well, I'm getting forgetful, or I must have made a mistake. But there are times, it's weirdest when you know for sure where you put something, but then it's absolutely different. Or, everyone has the experience with the laundry, socks missing, and that kind of thing. So that's how I got, those little things are not really what drew me into the topic. What got me excited about it was really big changes, where I was certain, for example, that a celebrity had passed away, and then now he's alive again. And, this was what I was calling the alive again phenomenon. But this huge category of strange events. They might seem like synchronicities. They might be spontaneous healings. I was putting all of this together because to me there was a common thread, and this became my life's passion and work. And so that's what I do my YouTube channel about, is reality shifts, quantum jumps. Now people call it Mandela effect.
Yes.
So I've been tracking this for like 21, 22 years now. So it's been a long time.
Yes, that has been. I was about to ask you that. How long have you been doing this? So yeah, longer than actually me. And it's interesting. Like I said, I studied spirituality off and on for many, many, many years because the traditional, I was sent to Catholic school as a child, and the traditional religious dogma didn't resonate with me. You know, I just had to, you know, things just didn't resonate with me as being truth.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I did do my searching, spirituality, why spiritual, you know, metaphysically, but it was science that actually had me to understand. It was the science that helped me understand what I was studying in spirituality.
It's interesting how that comes together, because my father was so passionate about science and math and really instilled upon me the importance and the value of education, going to college. That's how I got a degree in physics at UC Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
But all that time, a very special member of my family was my grandmother, and I didn't go to church because my dad was basically an atheist. My mom was an agnostic, and so we did not, I had to ask to bring a Bible into the house just to look at it, because it was not real. It was like contraband or something. Like, we don't have that. No, we don't do that. We're studying science. So I understand how people can have that approach. But the truth is, I can see energy. I can actually sense spirits, like angels. That's real to me. So when I could talk to my grandmother about it, she said, yes, angels are real. God is real. But then I didn't get any of the oppressive, some of the aspects of religious faith can be unfortunate. And I was just got all the good stuff without, the baggage.
Right, right. Well, for me, you know what it was? It was quantum physics. It was What the Bleep. I don't know if you've ever heard of the documentary. Yes. I watched What the Bleep in 2007, and that it made everything so, to me, it was so simple when you understand oneness, in the sense that, for me, traditional religion will take God out and put him up there on a pedestal, and you're separate from God. But when I understood the truth of oneness, we're not separate from God. We can never be separate from God. So there are people that say they don't believe in God, then you don't believe in yourself, because you are there is no, man puts God into man's image. Like, God is just this being. No, God is everything. That's what I understood from quantum physics, that there is nothing separate. Separation is the illusion. But we're all cells of God, holographic cells, meaning each one of us has all of God within us, because that's what holographic means. It's like, my favorite quote is Rumi. You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean in a drop. So each of us is little tiny cells of God, but we're all of God in that tiny cell. So there's no separation.
Yes. We can feel it when we're in nature. I think everybody has that experience where there's such beauty and it's so vast, and you sense this presence. You sense that you don't have to be worried about whatever you thought was such a big deal. You can let that go. I love doing a nature walk every day if I can, just to purify, like, my soul, just to clear me out and get me over myself, So all that daily clutter is gone. But something else that's weird about me, perhaps, or a little unusual, is that when I was quite young, I could remember being I remember being a something before I was born. Okay. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a word for it now, like born aware. But a lot of people don't know it yet. Oh, you've heard of it? Good.
Yes.
And there's a book about that. But if people haven't heard about it, I don't intend to shut anyone out, because I think people that remember that, all that's happening is they're just getting to that place you're talking about, that feeling of connection, communion, that everything is connected, that we are ultimately not just that singular drop, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, what if you look at an ocean, you don't look at each little, here's a drop, here's another drop. It's like us. Now, clearly we have our boundaries, we like that, we have feelings of identity, but it can create issues for us too. So that's the value of your approach with your show, I think, is to bring our attention back to that oneness and take a look at what does that mean.
Yes.
And it's quite challenging with quantum physics, I think, especially in light of recent news. But I like a challenge, and I like to look at, let's find the oneness even when things are different. With reality, people see different things. looks like history is changing. You know, what does that mean? Yeah.
Well,
These are good questions.
The thing is, I say, tell people to look at the yin and yang symbol. It's equal. When you look at the yin and yang symbol, you have the black and white are equal. They're not, okay, more light and more white, more, you know, it's equal, meaning it's that contrast is equal. And actually, if we really look at it, contrast is neutral. We label it bad or good. We label it black or white, good or evil, you know, but it just is, because God just is. When I say God, I mean all that is. Everything, the tree, the grass, the bird, the bee, the worm, it's all God. And it just is. And I can say, oh, that's bad. That's me judging it and labeling it. I can say, oh, that's good. That's still me judging it and labeling. It just is. But you know what I want you to get into with the listeners is, because remember I told you, I understand, I think I found you, it was quantum leaping or something like that. That was the first video. And I'm sure people are saying, what are they talking about? Reality shifting, quantum leaping, all this. And it's what we normal people call miracles. And they happen all the time, big, small. I mean, little miracles, or tiny miracles are happening every instant. And we don't notice them. But there are times when we notice the big miracles we call miracles. The big things that happen, the big shifts we call miracles when they're quantum leap. So explain to the listeners what quantum leaping.
Okay, well, like I said, I started looking at reality shifts because I think most people's introduction to this subject, you don't know what's happening, but you notice something just changed. Like with the Mandela effect, people are really noticing the Berenstain Bears, changes in movie dialogue, like if you build it, they will come. And now it's if you build it, he will come, which actually has a really spiritual feeling to it. So, you know, I kind of like that one. There are changes in the Bible. You know, the lion, it used to be the lion shall lie down with the lamb. And I remember that, but now it's like the wolf shall lie down with the lamb.
Okay.
It's like, what happened there? I don't know.
I remember the lion. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
But I think that the point is we don't want to get all caught up on it has to always be this certain way. I think the idea is to take a look deeper, and maybe it's like a big cosmic game of how is this closer to truth or what's really real for us. Like if you build it, he will come. That's kind of cool. I like that one.
Yes.
And just recognizing that spirit comes in when you prepare yourself for that. But for the path of reality shifts, quantum jumps, has to do with becoming increasingly aware that our subconscious in so many ways is kind of manifesting these miracles. And when you think about your subconscious, because we're not just our brain in our head, we tend to think we are. We think, okay, I'm very rational. I only do what makes sense. I'm so logical. But then sometimes you hear people say, my heart wasn't in it, or my heart's broken. My heart always tells me to do something different than my head. I don't know which one to trust.
Yes.
And then there's also your gut. So I'm just picking these three basic areas to keep it simple. It matters a lot. It matters so much because the subconscious kind of runs the show in the sense that it's what you really need. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't get what you want, and it's not what you thought you were looking for. Your heart was going somewhere else, but you actually get what you need. Exactly. And so I think that's a spiritual path, actually. So I recommend when people look at these miracles, not to try to do witchcraft or magic. And that's not my approach at all, because I think it goes wrong really fast, in my opinion, because if I think, oh, I know what's best for everyone, maybe I'm a little bit wrong. Probably, I'd say, for sure, I'm probably wrong, because how can I know what's right for everybody? I'm going to mess it up. Right. So what I do is I ask what's best for all concerned.
Yes.
But this idea of reality shifting, I'm actually saying for sure, reality is literally changing. I'm talking real miracles. I'm saying everything that you saw in the Bible, I believe that did happen. Mm-hmm. I've seen similar things happen. So to me, none of it is outlandish. It's all real. Yes. And I think we're seeing science that can back it up. And so that's what I like to explore. And I'm just glad you're open to getting into the spiritual side on your show.
Oh, definitely. Oh, well, to me, honestly, to me, there's no separation. It's all, there is no separation between what we call physical and spiritual, because in truth, there's no physical. And that we were taught, this is basic science. I was taught in 7th grade when we were studying molecules. My teacher said nothing is truly solid. Everything is made up of these tiny, and they move, and they don't touch. They're not, as a matter of fact, they're really far apart when you look at them microscopically.
Right.
And in truth, we should be able to put our hand right through a table, in truth.
Right.
But, because it's not truly solid, nothing. So in truth, what we call solid, what we call physical, is still spiritual, but it's denser. It's moving at a slower vibration, and it's denser. So it feels more solid, it feels more real. But in truth, it's spirit. So for me, there's no separation. It's all spirit.
Right. And then what that lays the groundwork for, like, I love your example of, like, you should be able to put your hand right through something solid, because some people do. And I've given talks to scientific groups, and then I'll say something like in the talk, like my book, Quantum Jumps, I talk about how people have literally survived a collision with an oncoming vehicle. It's like they just suddenly are on the other side of it.
Yes.
This happens in real life. When I explain this in talks,
yes,
I get flooded with people who come to me afterward, and they all, like 10 of them will say, I've never told this to anyone because it sounds crazy, but that happened to me. Like, I was facing an oncoming car. The next thing I know, we're on the other side of each other. It's like we went through each other.
Exactly.
I'm okay, but I know that's what, like, I don't understand it, you know, and that's what people tell me. And to me, that is a miracle. And it's also proof of what you're talking about, and gets to the core of the whole idea that I think is so, to me, it's obvious that the quantum realm, people call it the quantum realm, it's everywhere. We're in the quantum realm. Yes. That means that we occasionally can literally go right through. All the molecules can pass through each other. We can do what's called quantum teleportation on the macroscopic scale with huge objects like an oncoming vehicle. And when you most need it, that's when it might happen for you. And to me, what is that? That's a miracle, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, to me, I think of it more of shifting, like you said, and I do believe that, and this has been talked about in scientific realm field as well, when they talk about the many worlds theory and the multiverse theory. I believe everything that can happen does happen. It's all vibrational. So if you experience what you are the vibrational match to, but there's another version of you that might experience at a lower vibration something that you didn't experience, because I believe there are many worlds. When I say the many worlds theory, which is also science, there's the many worlds theories, there's the multiverse theory, and I do believe everything that can happen does happen. I do. But we experience what we're a vibrational match to.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something there, because it's a matter of choices. So when that vibrational match, people might say, what is that? But you can think of it like a choice. Like you might feel like, I just have to say that thing. I have to give them a piece of my mind. Mm-hmm. And that's going to give you a different reality than maybe that doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to let that go. Maybe that's not important right now. I'm going to get over myself for this moment.
Yes.
And that's going to take you to a different place. That choice right there. And then people can get a feeling of what you mean by different they might understand the vibrational match, but if they don't, then think of it like a choice.
Yes. And exactly like you said earlier, and I say on this show all the time, I'm not a guru, I'm not a teacher, I don't call myself a teacher. I share what resonates as true for me. And I always say, I know you said there you have you can go with your head, you can go with your heart or your gut. Me, of the three, it's always what's my heart saying to me, and that's when I know now to follow my heart, because I believe that's going to bring. Now and a part of me might be following my head, another version of me might be following my gut. We're going to have different outcomes. But when I say I believe, I try to encourage everyone to go within. Mm-hmm. Go with what resonates for you. I'm nobody's guru. I can't tell anybody else what to do. All I can do is share my truth, what resonates as true for me, and encourage others to do the same. So I don't ever want to sound preachy or, like you said, whatever they believe, whatever their truth is, if they're atheists, whatever their truth is, we create, it's a catch-22 because we are creating our reality from what we believe. So what they believe is good. It's like the saying, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. You're right both ways. It's a catch-22. You create your realities from your beliefs. So if you say, I don't believe that, okay, then you're not going to have that experience because you don't believe that, So
I like to open that conversation up with a person, like, well, where's their head, where's their heart, where's their gut, and get that dialogue going, because sometimes it hasn't been happening, and
yes.
like they didn't even know that there was that much going on, or that there were 3 opinions happening.
Yes.
There's a possibility that there can be a conversation, and through that, this beautiful kind of a Bohmian dialogue occurs. David Bohm, you're talking about, I think you mentioned the holographic interpretation, maybe, amongst there's like the many worlds of Hugh Everett III.
Yes.
And that multiverse concept came into that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, that you were mentioning, with all those basketballs bouncing, and
yes.
all the different realities, but they're all out there.
Yes.
Another interpretation of quantum physics to explain all this weirdness, the spooky action at a distance, and
yes.
entanglement and teleportation, all that stuff that I think really creates these reality shifts and miracles. If you look at all that, there's another idea of the holographic universe. That's David Bohm's idea. And he had this idea of just listen, that we don't, as a community, often just talk and talk and talk without interruption until someone finishes talking. It's a whole experience to go through that. And I used to go to these Language of Spirit conferences. They would go on for days, and a talker would start talking and literally go talk. They might go 45 minutes before they finally wind down from that. And as everybody's listening, they're not leaving the table unless you have to use the bathroom or get a cup of water. But then you come right back and you're listening. And then that's when I realized, as a culture, we do not remember how to listen, because we don't go in nature and just sit there. It's like a whole lost art,
I agree with you 1,000%. It's rare, but I sometimes even have guests like that. But it's rare. I love all my guests. No, not you. No. I'm like, no.
I know.
I have not necessarily. I have met in my lifetime many people, and I can tell they don't slow down. Now they'll say something, and I'm listening very intently, and they'll say something that I want to, address what they just said, but they don't leave me room to even get in there to address. I just let it go. I was like, but I understand exactly what you're saying. There's an art to listening. And there's something really cool that happened to me, because at first I had that same impulse, like I want to say something, and I would learn I have to do it with my eyes. I have to show them like I get it, and I can smile, but I can't say anything, and they just keep going. And it's good for the speaker. It's kind of like this massive kind of psychotherapy or something, because there's a cleansing of one's spirit. Like you just feel like you get everything out. No one stops you. Right.
And they say the whole darn thing, whatever it is. And there are maybe 15 people just watching you. And because they can't go anywhere or say anything, they're kind of like riveted. It's an amazing experience. I mean, it's so, I can't even describe it. Unless you've been through it, it's weird. It's wonderful. It's wild.
I do understand what you're saying. With me, I like I said, when I told you, my show is a conversation. And I like to share like a bit and then kind of wait to hear a response to that, kind of have, go back and forth. But some people, like you said, I've spoke with people that like they're saying something and I want to engage directly in what they're saying, but they don't give me space to. So I just let it go. But I like to give people, and then sometimes I give them when I give people the space, it's like they didn't hear what I just said, because I'm giving them a space to respond to what I just said, and they go on to something else, or they don't respond to what I just said. So I'm like, okay, you aren't listening, but it's okay.
Well, this one, the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's relevant in terms of all these interpretations of quantum physics. And people are wondering, why do we talk about this? It means because we don't know which one is right. They might all be right, even. Like it might be many worlds where they're all out there existing. Looks like that to me.
Yes.
It might be a holographic universe, like the guy that came up with this Bohmian dialogue. That's David Bohm. And his view of the world, the universe, is like a paint bucket. So you get this bucket of white paint, and you pour some red paint into it. And then you take these paint stirrers, and you just kind of spin it, and you stir it.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a hologram, you can actually unspin it. You can like spin it back, and then it goes back to what it was. And every single piece of this holographic viewpoint has the entire view of everything. So the oneness comes from an individualized perspective, which is a relative view. It's a very subjective experience, but it's got the whole picture from that point of view, which could make it look extremely different than another point of view of the same picture. And that's the idea from a holographic image. You can take a glass plate that has a holographic image of the White House or something, and then you shatter it, you break it, and all the pieces are there. Each one has the same 3D image, but only from that perspective. So it's kind of amazing.
That's exactly how I like how I sometimes think of it as a puzzle, and we're all unique. My definition of who we are all unique aspects of God, which is all that is. And when I say unique, because we all have a unique perspective. No two people have the thing. Now, two people can agree on something, sure, but no two people have the exact perspective because they are that unique, divine aspect of God. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have unique perspectives. And to me, there is no such thing as right or wrong. So it's just that's your perspective. That's your perspective. And all we're doing is sharing perspectives. And they don't have to agree. And I can still love you, even though my perspective and your perspective can be completely opposite. I can still love you and honor you because I see you as a unique aspect of God. So when you see everybody as a unique aspect of God, you can honor them. You don't have to agree. You have your own perspective. So yeah.
I'm really hoping that there's been some news, and I get excited when there's quantum physics news that is exactly what you're talking about, and there is. A couple of news stories have come out. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting.
No, the reason I'm asking you to share it with me, please.
This is brand new. This just came out in the last month. It's like super exciting.
Okay.
It's like world changing.
Okay. Well,
like
I stopped watching mainstream news in 2001.
No, they're not covering this.
Mainstream news is not covering this.
Well, because they don't recognize these news stories to be as huge as I do. Well, I'll do the little story first, the smaller one, and we'll move on to the bigger one.
Okay.
But they're both huge. Okay, the first one is, I don't know if you've heard some of these scientists talk about how we might be living in a simulation, right?
Yes.
And they're like, well, it's all just a big computer simulation, and we're all inside the mind of an artificial intelligence. Good news for those of us. I don't
agree with that part.
I don't agree with it at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Sorry. It never sounded right to me.
I keep interrupting. I'm gonna listen. Okay, share.
Well, no, I'm glad you said that. I don't like it either. When it first came out, I was like, that is so wrong. I wish someone would prove that that's wrong. Good news, they have. So it's like, this is the small good news. These are both huge. Okay, so the small good news is researchers are noticing that if there's no way that you could possibly collapse all of those little choices we're talking about, like maybe I should say something, maybe not say something, for every single little drop of consciousness in this cosmic ocean, there's no way, there's no computer that can possibly hold all of those different variables, all of those different potentialities. It's far bigger. And they proved scientifically, with calculations, there's no way it could happen.
Right.
Hallelujah. Boy, do I love that. That is awesome. Love it. Okay, so that's the small good news, which I think is excellent. And then moving on to something even bigger, which I think rocks the entire fabric of our Western science, which it needs to. That's why I think it's bigger.
Okay.
These are both big. Okay, this other news story has to do with the fact that a Gedanken Experiment, which is like an experiment of the mind, was recently successfully completed in quantum physics, showing that two observers who are both watching the same experimental situation are able at the same moment to see absolutely two different things, and they are both right. Exactly what you just said.
Exactly. I was going to say that. That's exactly, because they're looking from two different perspectives.
Yes.
So yes.
But it's been this was considered a possibility. There's something called the Wigner's friend experiment. If people know the Schrodinger Cat Experiment, you know Schrodinger Cat. Okay, so Erwin Schrodinger said, "This is ridiculous. This quantum physics stuff. There's no way you could have a particle be either a wave or a particle or some in between, and it hasn't decided. That's like saying a cat is not really alive or dead. That's ridiculous." And then he showed, what I mean is, like, let's look how ridiculous it is. Let's put the cat inside a box with a vial of poison and so forth, and radioactive material that decays at some random rate. So we don't know, unless we open the box, if the cat's alive or dead. We don't know if the poison has been released or not. So until we take that measurement, we can't tell. He thought he was making a point about how this can't be happening. What actually happened is people said, yeah, I think that is happening. And then, like, no way, physics is weird, quantum physics is crazy. And then the idea with Wigner's friend is, it gets even weirder, because what happens if someone's observing the person observing the cat? Then you've got this entangled system. And that's what this experiment that just was released, University of Edinburgh and the University of Austria, two different research teams are proving for sure. You can absolutely both have people observing this experimental apparatus. And they were using lasers and beam splitters, but it's the first physical experimental proof that shows for sure. One observer might be noticing, hey, that system has not yet chosen anything, and someone else says, oh yes, it has. And like, oh my gosh, at that same exact moment, wow. But that's what you're saying. That's what I know to be true. I've been tracking this for more than 20 years. I'm noticing reality shifts. And it makes sense when you think of that hologram, you think of that, all the drops in the ocean, all these different viewpoints. Yeah. So
now, when I said about the first, so yes, so I do believe that we are all unique, have a unique perspective, and no two people, just like no two snowflakes are alike. No two people can have they can have agreement, like we agree on a lot of things, but no two people can have the exact same perspective, because they're unique aspects of God, all that is. But the thing I was saying when you brought up the living in a simulation, I don't like to use it. I don't like the word simulation, because that makes you think of virtual reality and a computer. But I do believe we are each creating our own holographic reality, and it's not physical, it's not solid, and we are creating it with our own consciousness. But it's unique. Like, the reality I'm creating is the reality I'm creating. It's totally separate from the reality that you're creating. So that's why, the part of what they were, I definitely don't believe like in the Matrix where the computers are, all of that. But I do believe that we are living in a matrix. But I believe we're living in a matrix of our own creation.
It's like a living matrix, like a divine matrix.
Yes. Yeah,
I like that too. Yeah, that feels more right to me. Just going with a feeling sense,
right.
The gut feel. Yeah.
Yes. And so much of this is science. So, I mean, for me, I just love talking about the science aspect. I talk about the spiritual aspects on this show, but I love talking about the science about it, because it's just so much of this, and a lot of it, the quote unquote say controversial science, but I know I had a scientist on here. His name is Thomas Campbell.
Yes.
And are you familiar with him? Okay.
Yes.
He wrote the book, My Big Toe, meaning
everything. Yeah.
Right, my big theory of everything. Now, he said on this show that if a person doesn't believe in oneness, then you should take away their cell phone. Because he says all of today's technology, the cell phone, smartphones, smart TVs, computers, all of that. He's saying all of today's technology is based on quantum physics, which is based on the core of oneness. So he's like, if you don't believe in oneness, they shouldn't be able to have a computer and cell phone and all of that. And I'm like, now he knows the technical, because he was a NASA scientist.
Right.
So he knows all of that technical stuff about it. I don't know it to that degree, but I do believe the truth of oneness is it can be very complicated, but it can be very simple.
Right.
To me, and I put it in simple terms. It's just, we know we all have cells in our bodies, right? And we know that we can take a tiny cell from our body, and actually, if you know how to clone somebody, you can clone another you with just one microscopic cell. And I think of us as cells of God, or cells of all that is. Sometimes I don't like to use the word God, because that can be, people have so many different ideas of God. So I like to say all that is, meaning there is nothing outside of all that is. It's just all that is.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it can be kept down to a very simple format, or a very simple understanding. And when you look at it, no matter which way you look at it, it all comes back to, it's all connected. It's all one. So
I have a real feeling, I have a feeling of closeness to this idea of source, divine source, oneness, unity, whatever you want to call it, all that is. We have so many different names, and I think the names are misleading also, that what we really need to feel is that connection.
Yes.
Just like if you're connecting with a real person, you're present with them, you're listening, you're really there. There's a difference between doing that and having like this. These are the things I need to get across. This is my point. I need to prove my point. That's a whole different thing. And it's important to recognize the difference, and the way that we commune with the world. We're communing with all that is, with divine source, with, unity, God, source, whatever. Just some people call it God, goddess, but whatever you call it,
exactly.
I don't think it really cares what you call it. It's not the point. What matters is that essence of respect and reverence. These are qualities that I think in our materialistic culture, and so it's very brilliant that he's talking about get rid of your cell phone, get rid of your computer, because when we fixate on the material things, we've lost the point completely. We are off. We've lost track. We're way off course.
Well, actually, the point he was making is not to get, he's saying that if they don't believe in oneness, they shouldn't be able to own a cell phone or a computer, because that device works on the principles of oneness. That's what he was saying. So that's
everything, he's saying. But everything works on the principle of oneness. Your BMW, your Mercedes, everything we have. I mean, no matter what, your health is brought to you by virtue of all that is. Your wisdom, your intelligence is brought to you by virtue of all that is. Everything you have that's any good at all, the love in your life, your family, everything that you've ever achieved is brought to you courtesy of all it is. And so, you could also say, take it all away, because they don't deserve any of it. They feel entitled. They're just grabbing onto their material things. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty severe, but.
I mean, if a person's materialistic, I was like, I have no judgment, meaning I know I'm not materialistic, but I also say that person has their own viewpoint, which is separate than mine. So anytime for me, I have to say it's neutral. Everything is neutral, because if I label it bad or good, that's a judgment. And all that is loves everything equally.
Well, as a scientist, I love experimenting. So when I walk through the world in a state of reverence instead of entitlement, and there's a difference, it's like a continuum.
Yes.
It's kind of like you can be in a state of reverence.
I like that word you just said. There's a difference. There's a difference. Now, there's a difference, but we don't have to judge the difference. We don't have to say one is right.
Play with it. Play with it.
Yes.
Like go through a day and just go through that day feeling entitled, which means expectant. Like, I expect this to happen. I expect that to happen. I'm showing up. I'm doing my thing. So I expect this to happen.
Yes.
We often don't have awareness that we are in an entitled state of mind.
Yes.
Reverence is the other end of that extreme. And I like to play with it as a scientist and say, like, okay, what kind of a day would this be if I'm coming into it with all those expectations, all that entitlement, like this is mine because I did this or whatever, versus reverence, which is just wide open, like, okay, I'm here.
Yes.
I am present.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the God in everything, which is what we talked about earlier. It's a very different way of living. I'll tell you what happens to me, but I invite everybody watching to try it out. I'm not going to tell you what happens.
Okay.
Unless you want to know, but what happened for me. But I think you've done this experiment yourself. I know I have. And so it's a lot of fun. And that to me is a spiritual journey, just to see, like, I love the question, how good can it get?
Yes.
And when I get into that state of reverence, that's where it takes me. It takes me more into reverence rather than into the other side, which is the like, I deserve this. I need that. Maybe you do. Mm-hmm. But maybe something bigger is going on.
Well, for me, one of my favorite books is The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And reading that book, it really made me understand how much I wasn't in the now and not appreciating the now. I think we're so, as a society, we're so either in the past, our future mind, and not appreciating and loving and the now, just being thankful for the breath that we breathe, a glass of water, just being thankful, because everything has life. Now, you heard of Dr. Emoto, I'm sure. I'm not sure if you can see my water. Let's see.
You, I love you.
Yeah. Thank you, I love you. This is Deer Park water. You wouldn't know it. I take off the Deer Park label and I put that on all my water, even a big jug of water, because I know it has life. And so I'm just thankful for the little thing. And I thank, because I got teased. I went to the gym and I had my water bottle and somebody said, "You write love notes to your water?" Like, yes, I do, because it has life. But it's just the little things, just being thankful in this now moment.
Yeah.
And being grounded in the now. That's where I find a lot of peace. And being in a line. I think when I am really grounded in the now, it allows me to be connected to my higher self, which is my God self, that will guide me exactly where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be.
And those reminders to be grateful are so important. It gets you back into that reverence, which is such a high vibratory frequency.
Yes.
So, I love it.
Yes.
It's a great experiment, that too. And, I don't push it on people, but you see for yourself where the happiness is. Where is the joy? Where are the happy people?
Yes.
And for my grandmother, she just had such a blessed life, and she would frequently say, "I am so blessed." And miracles always abounded around her. And so that was a living example as well. So you can see it in people that live that way, with joy, with reverence. And it's not so much because things are going that well, because some people would say, well, of course they're happy. Everything went their way. No, that's not it. That's not it.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you just mentioned that, because I just saw a documentary on Netflix called Happy. And I was like, okay, what is it? It's a documentary, and it's about, they were showing there are people, what we would consider extremely poor in other countries, in India, and they were showing there's a tribe in Africa. We would consider the way these people live to be very poor. they were like extremely happy. So it had nothing to, it's not the materialism. And even if you interview, and I think about that a lot, I think about these celebrities that died kind of young, that we would quote unquote say had everything, like Michael Jackson, trying to think of others, Whitney Houston. We would think that, okay, they have the fame, their talent, oh my God, talent, they have the talent, natural talent, fame, money, everything. I mean, they materialistically, they had everything. I don't think they were happy. I don't think they were. So we know, there's so many examples of materialism not making you happy. Happiness is a state of being. And when you understand it can only come from within you, within your soul, that's where it comes from. And when you realize that, you just, to me, it's just, I'm just grateful and thankful for every breath.
And that's the feeling I got before I was born. It's like that sums it up. It's just that state of ecstasy, just that feeling of just so much love, so much connection, just being at one with what you call God, source, oneness, all it is, whatever. Doesn't care what you call it. But
right, exactly.
Feeling, oh my gosh, the feeling, it's incredible.
Yes. Share with our listeners some of your quantum leap moments. I have one big one I want to share. I had two big ones in my life, but some of my listeners, my regular listeners, already know about one of my big ones. But share some of those moments with our listeners. Yeah,
well, I've had so many, but one of the ones that blew my mind in a good way relatively recently was, it started off, I was just going to an appointment, but remembering to be in a prayerful state of mind, just sort of with a mantra, like how good can it get? Like how God can I get? How good can I get? So I'm bringing myself into service, really feeling that, the reverence. But then I'm focusing on driving. I start driving. I get only a couple blocks from home. Mm-hmm. Immediately I can hear and feel that I've got a flat tire on my right front tire, that it's just gone, just went, this sort of a, not a boom, but kind of a noise.
Yeah.
And then bump, 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 bump. And then the steering wheel is pulling, and I can feel like, oh boy, and I didn't leave time to change. And I'm going to get dirty changing the tire. But okay, I'm going to keep my mantra. How good can it get? How good can it get? Really? Okay. How good can it get? So I parked the car.
You've actually changed the tire? Well, AAA.
Oh my God. No, it's very flat. I'm driving on the rim. I can hear it. I can feel it. This is crazy. Okay. It's like seriously flat. We're not talking low. We're talking, it's pulling. It's not safe.
But I admire you as a woman actually getting out and changing a tire. I get a flat tire. I pull over. I call AAA. I know.
It gets better. It gets better. It gets better. Because I get out and so I go to look at it, because you don't want to, you need to size it up. Like, how bad is this?
Right.
Just to see what's going on here. Am I right? I sure felt it, heard it, everything.
Yeah.
I look at it. It looks fine. And now I'm like, wait a minute. No. And I don't know what to do, because I was going to get ready to change the tire, but I'm not going to change a tire if it looks like it's okay.
Right.
So I don't know what to do. I go back and I sit back in the driver's seat, but I can't drive away on a flat tire.
Right.
And I know it's flat because I heard it and I felt it. So I get back out of the car, go around. Now I kick the tire. It felt stupid, but what are you going to do? It's like, okay, I kick it. It feels right. And I'm like, well, I can't change it because it feels right. I can't drive on it. And I tell myself, yes, you can drive slowly. Just see if it steers differently. I get back in the car, start it up. It seems okay. I'm like 2 miles an hour, 3, 5 miles an hour, a little faster, a little faster. And I get to where I'm going, get out, look at the tire again. It's fine. I go to where I'm going, come back, look at the tire. It's fine. Come home. I tell my husband, who used to be a mechanic, I don't tell him what's going on. I just say, could you please check the car, because I think something may be wrong with the tires. Could you check them for me? So he goes out, comes back in, says, well, 3 of them were kind of low. 1 of them was perfect. And I'm like, which one was perfect? He said, the right front tire. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I felt like God changed my tire, so I didn't call AAA.
Okay.
I just asked, how good can it get?
Yes. So
And that happened.
So yes, I believe that was a shift. Like you felt like, I mean, we all know what a flat tire feels like. And
Yes. I've
so,
had them before.
yeah.
Fortunately, not that often, but yes.
So you pulled over, but there was a shift where it all of a sudden wasn't flat. So
It's the perfect tire. It's
yeah,
the one that's exactly 32
perfect.
pounds per square inch. The other ones were like, I don't know, 25, 26
Right.
pounds per square inch. He said those were low. 3 of them were low. One was perfect. I'm like,
Okay.
no way.
So yes, the shift. Okay, so it took that flat tire and made it perfect. Okay, now the other 3 has to catch up.
But I've seen instantaneous healings. I've seen so many miracles. Many miracles.
Yes. Well, that was the you just said instantaneous healing.
Yes.
Well, many of my regular listeners know my son is in spirit now. But 2.5 years before, he's been in spirit 4 years. It's fine. He's still very much with me. He's already told me he's the co-host of this show. So, but 2.5 years before, so he transitioned in 2014. But in December of 2011, doctors told me he wasn't going to live. And at that time, I couldn't accept that. Yeah. And I tried to take my own life in the hospital waiting room. But here's what happened a week after. Okay, so doctors asked me if they could take him off life support, and I said no. But I knew in my heart, of course I didn't tell the doctors, but I knew in my heart I wasn't going home without my son. So I tried to I took a bottle of over-the-counter sleeping pills. And I wish I had an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience I could come back and share. But I was unconscious for 2.5 days. And then they had me, once my vital signs were good enough, they had me on the psych ward under 24-hour suicide watch. And they allowed me, of course, they did not take my son off life support because I never gave permission. And they allowed me to visit with him a little bit every day for about an hour, supervised visits. They would just, watch me like a hawk. But I whispered in his ear, so this is a week later, I whispered in his ear, I said, he's still on life support. And I whispered in his ear, Kyle, get better so we could both go home. That night, he pulled himself off life support and his vital signs were perfect. Like that tire, his vital signs were perfect. And the doctors were pulling their hair out because they're like, oh my God, we thought, he's going to die if he's not on life support. He pulled himself off life support. His vital signs were perfect. And we went home together about a week later. So wow. That was a true miracle. And from that miracle, I did promise God. I made a promise to God. I would never, ever, no matter what happens the next day, I will never stop thanking you for that miracle. So even 2.5 years after that, so that was December of 2011. And he goes back into the hospital April of 2014. So even as he's going back to the hospital, the ambulance is driving him off, taking him back to the hospital. I was still thanking God.
Yes.
Because I said, that was a true quantum leap. That was a true miracle. And yes. Even, and when he did transition, he transitioned July 2014. When he did transition, I was at peace because I knew he wasn't going anywhere. I knew it was his time, yes. And I think he just stayed a little extra for me. Like, mommy's not ready, I'm going to stay. Okay, take me off. I'm going to stay. I really believe that. And so he stayed for me a little extra longer. And I said, okay, when it's our time, no soul comes into this experience or leaves this experience before their time, no matter what age. It could be a baby. It was that soul's choice to come and that soul's choice to go. And there's no such thing as death. I knew he wasn't going anywhere. I knew it was his choice to leave. And I knew that it was our soul's plan, that this was a soul plan he and I had together. Matter of fact, I was reading the last month of his life, I was reading Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift. Robert Schwartz was the author of those books, or Robert Schwartz, who was my very first guest on this show. Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
Yes. So yeah, quantum leaps. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I can't let go of people I love either. They're not dead to me. I still talk to them.
Yeah.
And I even meet some that I never knew in real life, but they talk to me too.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I love that. To me, it seems like this consciousness is the main thing. That is who we are. The physical bodies, that's a vessel.
Yes.
But when you, in your dreams, in your meditation, you can absolutely connect for real with your loved ones. They're totally there. I believe it too.
Yes.
I'm still with my grandmother that I love so much, and favorite pets that have passed away, best friends that have died, but they're still with me. I had one talking to me just today. They're still with me. They communicate with me. They uplift me. They share what they see. I can feel it. So I agree with you. And I'm so glad your son is the co-host, because what better gifts to share than to to bring that light.
Yes.
Yes.
He actually told me he's very proud of the show, and he's surprised. He's like, "Mom, wow, I'm surprised you're doing that." It's like, that was in my first reading with I've had several evidential mediums as guests, and one of them Suzanne Giesman, gifted me a reading on his birthday 2 years ago. And that was in that reading, I had never heard of EVP, which is electronic voice phenomena.
Yes.
I never heard of it.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. And that's proof. Then you get proof. It's like,
during that reading, so obviously I had never heard of it, and it had never happened with Suzanne, as far as she's a medium. She does hundreds of readings. She knew of it, but it had never happened. So we weren't trying to EVP.
That's the best.
we were on Zoom like we are now, and he was trying to communicate through her computer. You talked about pets, but he was holding my dog, Coco, who's in spirit. We have Coco's bark on tape, and we have Kyle's voice doing it. We could clearly hear his voice. He was talking about me, and I'm doing, she said he's saying, I still have work to do, and she's doing it. You can hear his voice on tape.
That is so awesome. That's what I'm saying. This is real. I can hear it. I can feel it. Sometimes it comes through like as clear as a bell. Sometimes you're right. It comes through on EVP.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And that gets to the core of what we're talking about too. This whole thing about the oneness, the quantum physics. And I'm seeing increasing evidence for it. So this is blowing people's minds, but I've been tracking this science for 20 years, and people like your other guest with my big toe, and they're more than that. Many more scientists know that what we're saying is true, but they don't want. It's embarrassing to go public. They could lose their reputation.
Well, you know what? This is interesting because I live on YouTube, and I just listened 2 days ago. I listened to it, and I wrote down his name. But there's another scientist and I can't think of his name, but the Times, New York Times, says he's one of the top 3 scientists in the country. But he also speaks about this. But what really got me, and I wrote down his name, and I got to look it up because I have to invite him to be a guest on the show. But what got me is when it's at the New York Times, when mainstream media is recognizing these scientists, that's what really, gets me excited. Yes. So,
it's big, and it's. I'm so glad I got to share these 2 big news stories that are absolutely rocking the world. This is not. We now have evidence to suggest this is not a computer simulation inside of artificial intelligence.
Right.
That's not wrong to begin with. It can't be right.
No.
Classical computers have no way to keep up with that, and it would take a quantum computer. We don't even have those yet, and people could say, "Well, never mind. Let's not get into it. It's circular arguments." Point is, it's disproven right now.
Yes.
So the other big news: 2 different observers can absolutely see different things. They can both be right.
Yes.
Where does this take us? Back to like Carlos Rovelli's relational interpretation. We didn't get into that. We didn't get too technical today, but
that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, you know why? Because I always say to I have a lot of scientists on the show. Like I've had Dr. Bruce Lipton,
Yes.
Dean Radin, lots of scientists. Thomas Campbell. I love having scientists, and hopefully this New York Times, this scientist that the New York Times says is one of the top 3 scientists in the country today, I hope I give him as a guest, because I love having scientists, but I also love keeping it simple, you know, because it was science, truly was science that woke me up, had me to it was science that helped me to understand spirituality, you know, in essence. It really was. So I love having scientists because, you know, the layman, like, oh, here's the thing that I love sharing with guests, and I want you to share how our guests, our listeners can follow you. But the fact that our human senses, like I call it a spacesuit, our human body is so limited, and science has proven how limited. It's like 0.0035% of the spectrum of light that we can actually see. Science has proven this, that there's just a little sliver of what we can see. And there's 96%, the universe is 96% dark matter, dark energy that we can't detect with our human senses. So 96% of what surrounds us, we can't detect. So how can we say, oh, I only believe what I see? You know, to me, that's like, so what's the word? Myopic?
It is. The thing I get into in my books, like Aura Advantage and Reality Shifts, I share science that shows, the research that shows that we actually are born synesthetics. Children are able to sense, they have multiplicity of sensation happening currently simultaneously. And we also have a great deal of hyperacuity of sensitivity. We're hypersensing beings, but collective consciousness tends to shut it down. We tell each other, we don't see that, that's not real. And so we just start shutting it down.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think a newborn baby could teach us a lot. If that newborn baby could talk.
We can open ourselves back up to it too. So, yes.
Very true. Now, please, Cynthia, please share with our listeners how they can follow your work.
Okay, well, the best way is go to my website, which is realityshifters.com, and I've got a newsletter that's free every month. I've got my YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, but you can find all of that if you just go to realityshifters.com, and it's all there, and the books and the meditation CD, everything. So it's kind of like the center where you can find me everywhere else.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. This has been so lovely, and I hope you're out in California, right? Berkeley? Yes.
Yeah, Berkeley, California. Right. I went to UC Berkeley and stayed here after I got my degree in physics. Yeah, I love it here.
I have never been to that neck of the woods, but I hear it's beautiful, and I'm sure it is. So if I ever get out to that neck of the woods, I am going to look you up.
Oh, please do.
Yes.
Love to see you. Yeah, let me know when you come out.
I will. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. And, the hour went by so quickly.
Yes. Thank you, too.
Thank you. This has been great. Thank you so much. You enjoy the rest of your day, and we will stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you.